o'clock, we will convene the meeting. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Here.
DeCook.
Here, we do have a quorum. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any agenda deletions or corrections tonight? Seeing none, first item is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. Claims, we have a claims figure of $1,710,000, $431.49. Fringes in the amount of $22.28. C, minutes to approve January 27, 2022 budget work session. 2, January 31st, 2022 budget work session. 3, February 1, 2022 regular board meeting. 4, February 8, 2022 work session. 5, February 8, 2022 special meeting at 10:30 a.m. And 6, February 8, 2022 special meeting at 3:30 p.m. D, approved employee payroll removal, Nancy Johnson, dental assistant, health services, effective January 20th, 2022. E, approved payroll employee removal, Chelsea Edgington, Board of Supervisor office assistant, effective February 2, 2022. F, approved employee payroll removal, Terry Pote, appraiser, assessor's office, effective February 11, 2022. And G, set public hearing for 223rd Avenue Road vacation for March 1, 2022 at 9:35 a.m.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 2 on the agenda today is continuation of first reading regarding rezoning application as submitted by Dennis and Patricia Van Ryswick.
Okay, on January 18th, during the Board of Supervisors meeting, the board entered into a public hearing to hear evidence regarding an application for rezoning of property owned by Dennis and Patricia Van Ryswick from A1 to RR1. After hearing from the zoning administrator, the applicant, Brent Culp from Snyder and Associates, which is who represents the Van Ryswicks, and several citizens, the board closed the public portion of the hearing regarding the application for rezoning. The matter was then tabled and continued to this evening's meeting. As the public portion portion of the meeting has been closed, no additional evidence will be presented to the board as the board continues to deliberate and vote on this matter. So.
So the board, we've untabled last official meeting on the rezoning application. What are the thoughts of the board?
I had researched and read the City of Carlisle City Council meetings, and in a meeting that they had concerning this, and I believe that Mr. Culp was there, I might have some questions for you. It was about a 2-hour meeting. regarding the property that they wanted to develop. The plan had not gone to planning and zoning. Did it ever go to Carlisle Planning and Zoning?
Brent Culp, Snyder and Associates, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard in Ankeny, Iowa. It did not. We had a work session. Actually, I believe there were 3 meetings. I was at the first 2. The last one I did not attend when they decided to go ahead. The Van Ryswick's, what they wanted to do is within 2 miles, jurisdictional distance from Carlisle, they wanted to develop within the county. And the city of Carlisle wanted them to develop within the city. And so that was the first thing that we wanted to address, is to get the city to say that it would not be required that we annex into the city of Carlisle. The 3rd meeting that I was not there is when that decision was made, but the other 2 was just really basically discussion. And I believe that Van Ryswick's are maybe on the Zoom call to answer any additional questions, but the outcome was, and I presented it at the commission meeting here, and then the mayor of Carlisle was here, is that they agreed to just allow this to go forward in the county was the decision, but we did not go to any planning and zoning commission meetings. It was just strictly with the council, and it was in work session.
I think that it's my understanding that once we approve this, then it can go to them or something.
The plating process, if it's a subdivision, then the cities have review of those subdivision plats.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But we'll have to go through all of their boards and stuff, as well as the planning and zoning commission here, and the board of supervisors.
Okay. And according to their minutes, one of their biggest concerns was the development of the roads.
Of the what?
Of the roads within the subdivision.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure it was paved, and the Van Ryswick's made a commitment that it will be paved.
Right.
Yep.
And well, their exact words were like, they wanted it to be to the city standards, and that they didn't want it to be to the county standards. And so I asked our engineer what standards he was using.
Okay.
And he said he was using SUDAS, which is the Iowa Statewide Urban Design and Specifications. I know you probably know, but doing this for the benefit of the public. They promote uniformity within urban design and construction in mind with all across Iowa. So the standards are gonna be there. That's not, I don't think, the issue anymore, I hope.
Correct. It's, and part of their concern is that you don't go out and do a seal coat that's, granular with the seal coat on top, and it would be a full depth pavement, PCC pavement. It would be a rural cross section, and then sometime, not that it ever get annexed in the city, but then the city could come back in and put curb and gutter if, that's what they desire. And, with the conservation, there's city developments that have rural cross sections in towns too, so it may not be an issue, but their main thing was to make sure that, this was a real roadway, even though it was gonna be private. And, it's gonna be 6 or 7 inch PCC pavement, built to standards.
And the school district has agreed to actually turn in there to pick up any children that live in there. And there will be a cul-de-sac big enough for the bus to turn around, correct?
Yes. It may be, because we always look at future phases potentially, so it may be an asphalt turnaround, but it would be a 45-foot radius turnaround that would allow for a bus and just about any size of vehicle. That's what we would do, like in the city of Des Moines, it'd be a 45-foot radius cul-de-sac, so. But it would have that, yes.
Okay.
Any roadway that extends to a certain distance would have a temporary turnaround. Correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or thoughts from the board?
I have some more thoughts.
I'm gonna add that going back to what Crystal said about the subdivision plat going in front of them, it's always just been, Warren County has always just sent a notice when it's within a 2 mile of a city. We've always just out of kindness, we've just sent that notice to those cities just so they know that that somebody is applying for a rezoning within that 2 mile. We do it to Norwalk, we do it to Carlisle, City of Indianola. We really aren't bound by Iowa code to do that, but we just do it so that they are aware of that that's in their, that that's coming up in their area, so they can weigh in if they want. It doesn't necessarily mean on a rezoning that that it's, that they have total say over that 2 mile for a rezoning. That's more for subdivision platting, but we do it out of, to just let them know, and we do try to give them say in that, so.
I think that's a great courtesy that we provide. Okay. And we were asked, I think it was by Bart, which one is Bart? Yeah. At the last meeting, if we had read the land use plan, and that has been a bone of contention with the public, as if we don't refer to it or look at it. When we have a case in front of us, we can refer to it if we need to, but looking at it and reading through it is just facts. But it has no application, I don't understand it unless I'm applying it to something. And so in my going on 8 years on the board, I'm sure I've gone through it, but I've never sat down to read it like a book, so. And I'm gonna speak for the other board members, if I may. We have one that's been here a year, and one is going on his 4th year. We have a zoning department for a reason, and they advise the board, or they explain things to us. They don't tell us how to vote. So, just for your information. It has also come up that someone is saying that in our land use plan, that we can't have more than 6 houses on 40 acres. That's if it's not going to be changed or rezoned. If it's gonna stay in ag land, you can only have 4 houses, it's not 6. So, if you change to RR1, then it becomes a totally new set. You have to rezone, it has to be notification, publication, and then that comes before the zoning commission as well as us. I think that's pretty much everything that I've researched. Some other things, but I don't feel like addressing them. If anybody wants to come to me after, they can ask me, but I think that's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Supervisor here.
Well, I just, basically, I echo everything Supervisor McIntyre has said, and I just like to, communicate to the public that, these are serious matters to this board, and we do take time and, do our research. We've been in plenty of meetings with our zoning commission. We do refer to the land use plan. It's more, it's a reference material. I don't read the book, the an encyclopedia, but I go to the encyclopedia to refer to it. That's what I use the land use plan for. There's no way that somebody of my caliber can go in and read all that material and have it, on the forefront of my mind and apply it. I just don't have that capability. It's a ton of material with a ton of segments, but I think our zoning department's done a really good job. I think our board has done a good job of listening and trying to understand and really reaching out and making an effort to try to do something with a historical property. But ultimately, I think this is there's a lot of elements that come into something like this. Economic development and revenue are small things, but there's something, when you are on the Supervisors Board in Warren County, Iowa, anytime there's an economic development opportunity or a chance to exponentially build your revenue, it's something that we need to take a hard look at. And that's where I end up as we look at land use plans, we look at land usage. There's nothing in the land use plan that I could find that would say this is an inappropriate development. This is from all aspects that I can find, this is a very nice development. Designed and laid out very, very nicely by a professional company. We don't see that a lot. And we're seeing it more and more, and we encourage this type of development and the partnering with professional companies that the Van Ryswick's did. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. I'll speak in generalities here. One, for those that have hung their hat on the land use plan that I've heard quite a bit about in the last few weeks. And yes, we've looked at it, we look at it all the time, and we discuss it with the zoning department when and where needed. And look at the map. Look at the map. Look at where the Van Ryswick's property is on the land use map. What you'll see is that it is right in the path of future RR1 development. It's on the map. I look at that. I look at Carlisle's desire to, weigh in within their 2-mile radius, and I look at the Carlisle School District. For those reasons, I'm going to be supportive of it. So, okay. Do we have a motion?
Having diligently reviewed the finding of fact, which cite the Warren County Land Use Plan and zoning ordinance, and consider the information and evidence provided by the applicant and Mr. Culp, and having heard testimony offered by several citizens during the public hearing on January 18th, 2022, I move to approve the application from Dennis and Patricia Van Ryswick to rezone the property as presented from A1 to RR1 and waive the second and third reading.
Second.
Any board discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre,
Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to just say one more thing. For me, this comes down to personal property rights. Do you really want somebody else telling you what to do with your own land? No.
Okay, roll call please.
McIntyre, Heater,
Aye.
DeCook,
Aye, motion carries. There was, second.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next up is a public hearing set for 6:05 p.m. for Sean Westrom regarding the rezoning from A1 to C2 for land located at 4248 Highway R57, Norwalk, Iowa 50211.
Yeah, I will.
And just hold tight and we'll take a brief pause. motion to go, I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion, roll call please?
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We are in public hearing, good evening.
Hi, okay. So Sean Westrom wishes to rezone from A1 to C2 for auto sales, and it's originally said aircraft restoration, but we have since taken that out, right? Yep. Okay.
What was taken?
The aircraft restoration. So it's just for, I mean, that, he does that as a hobby, the zone for personal hobby. Okay, so will the proposed district be a benefit to general public? Yes, it's near Norwalk city limits and local businesses on the highway. Is the location of the proposed district in accordance with land use plan and policies? When on the line, land use plan from 2002 calls for low density residential. Could proposed district be considered spot zoning? No. Will the proposed district maintain or protect property values of adjacent landowners? Yes. Is the time, schedule, and type of development considered within the district reasonable? Yes. Does the proposed district correspond to the area of proposed development? Yes. Will the proposed district be in accord with the intent, purpose, and spirit of the zoning ordinance and land use plan and policies of Warren County when on the line? Will the district be located at least a quarter mile from any existing livestock feedlot with more than 500 feet head of livestock on feed or poultry farm housing more than 5,000 fowl? Yes. Does at least 75% of this property in the proposed district have a CSR of 55 or less? Yes. Is any part of it located in an area subject to flooding? No. So the next question is not applicable. Does it propose to include heavily timbered areas? No. So the next question is not applicable. The proposed source of water supply and wastewater treatment meet requirements of Board of Health? Yes. Telephone, gas, and electric is available to serve the proposed district. It's already existing home and building. Will the existing roads and bridges providing access be adequate to serve the requirements, meet those requirements and standards of the engineer? Yes. The next two questions are not applicable. It's classroom facility and conservation. Conservation for parks. Will the development within the proposed district minimize soil erosion? Okay, that's not applicable because he's not building anything new. Is the proposed district outside of approach zones? This is for internet car sales, so that's not really applicable. Will the development within the proposed district minimize noise levels during and after construction so as not to create a nuisance to adjacent landowners? Not applicable. Again, he's not building a new building, he's doing it in the existing building. Is the proposed district located within an urban expansion area shown on the land use plan? Yes. City of Norwalk was sent a public hearing notice. We did get a letter back from them in November, and we just recently get another copy of that letter stating their opposition to it. In conclusion, Sean Westrom wishes to rezone to have internet auto sales, and I updated this on 2/9, only on his property. Again, we updated this on 2/9. Staff recommends approval. Zoning Commission tabled this is what I updated. The Zoning Commission tabled this to see how you handled the Ogden rezoning for similar request. They are sending they, meaning the Zoning Commission, are sending this request to you with a 3-0 vote of recommendation of approval with their restrictions. So they met in November, tabled it. They wanted to see what your response was to Ogden, and I'm not sure if you remember Ogden. Ogden was the same type of request. It was a internet sales request. What happens is the state, they apply for a dealer's license through the state, and you have to have zoning sign off from the county, and that has, right now, how we've done those is C2 zoning. So the big thing right now is internet car sales. so that's where I'm getting faced with these internet car sales. And so Mark Ogden had come in, he lived out in Milo, and he had made applications, so the zoning commission wanted to see what your response was. So they tabled that back in November. This came back in front of them in January. They did make a motion to, the motion was made by Laxton to recommend approval of the Western rezoning application to the Board of Supervisors with 5 restrictions. 1 was limit to internet auto sales. 2, all vehicles associated with this business would be limited to your 42 by 80 building. 3, zoning would change will sunset if the property is sold, so to revert back to A1. 4, signage would be in conformance with Warren County zoning ordinances, and which really, the sign would have to be on the building and have to be really small. 5, no additional exterior lighting for the businesses, and that was seconded by Rooney. So that's coming to you tonight with a 3-0 recommendation in favor from the zoning commission. We have received letters from, and these were in your files, or in your packets, email from Patricia Dawson, Robert and Kate Baldwin. They requested the application be emailed to them back in November. Received an email from the city of Norwalk, Elliot Klimowski from the planning office on 11/5. Received an email from Randy Hatch. We received an email from Bob and Kate Baldwin. Then on 11/12, that was in opposition. I talked to Galen Bedwell, regarding the rezoning, and he planned to be at that meeting on 11/9, but his son was here instead and voiced their opposition to it. We received a letter in the mail from Patricia Dawson again on 1/3. On 1/6, we received an email from Kate Baldwin in opposition. Elliot Klimowski from the city of Norwalk on 1/4 requested a copy of the application and the minutes from the 11/15 meeting via email. Carrie sent those. We never heard anything back. We did receive an email this week from the city of Norwalk. Again, it was that same letter from November, just restating that they're in opposition to it. I can reread any of those. I know that all of those previous ones were in your file.
Could you reread the Norwalk one?
The Norwalk
Most recent
one.
Norwalk one?
Yes.
That one was in there. It is in this one.
Okay. Carrie said she put it in here.
And can you point out, is the star shown Western place?
What was that?
The star on the map, is that where Sean is proposing? But they sent these maps and
Yeah, what
would
there's,
it actually fit within what they are proposing?
no, we had met with the city of Norwalk just actually that same week in November, and they had told us they were planning to go all west and not east, so, and then at the same time they sent this letter, so they were planning their growth. We had met with them in economic development, and they said their growth was going west, not east, and then this came, so,
They are growing by Brody's Landing, by Bedwell's. I mean, so there's
Yeah.
some to the south. I mean, there's a
and
bunch
just
of
to the
bunch
north of this,
there, too.
just to the north on the corner of G14 and R57 is Bedwell Gardens, which is in the city limits now, and then their transportation for the schools, which is, industrial, but, okay. The city of Norwalk's received your letter regarding the proposed rezoning at 4248 R57. We've reviewed the request and are writing you to oppose the proposal based on the city of Norwalk and Warren County future land use plans. On the reverse of this letter is a clip of the city of Norwalk future land use map centered on the proposed address. The area containing the parcel is shown as medium density residential, a designation for which commercial is incompatible according to the city's future land use plan. Also appended to this letter is a clip from the Warren County future land use map showing the area as low density residential. We would note that the local commercial area near this address is to the north, where the city has its public works facility and a residential commercial flex zone in its future land use plan. Commercial is not listed as a permitted use in the future land use plan of the county in this area. We are also cautious of the nature of this request as a spot zoning, which could be problematic when reviewing future requests. Please feel free to contact our office for further information related to the City of Norwalk's future land use plan in this area. So, again, internet car sales, we need to figure out, probably in our zoning ordinance, it's, where is it gonna fit, because I think it's probably going to become it's much more popular post-COVID than it was pre-COVID, because that's the way. I wouldn't want to buy a car that way, but I would want to come and see the car. A lot of people come and see. I know these cars that Sean is doing, he has another business that's over on Highway 28, and I know he's going to keep that business there. I know these are higher end cars. I would be one who would want to go and look at the car, drive the car, all of that. But I know a lot of people are just buying cars and off the internet and not even driving them, you know. And so I think it's becoming something that it's kind of ultimate decisions up to the three of you. And I know Sean is here, and I think he has a couple other people here with him, so I can open it up to.
Wonderful, thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you.
We are in a public hearing, so anyone from the public may come and to speak. I'd love to hear from the applicant and whoever else would like to speak on the topic. Please just state your name and your address to get started.
Sean Westrom, 4248 R57 Highway, from the applicant. I did bring pictures of my building for you guys if you want to look through this folder.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Well, as just explained, I'm here for the C2 zoning, and I only need that because of the Iowa DOT. They have a one-size-fits-all dealer's license. Unfortunately, there's no way around that in the state of Iowa, and I just want to go about doing this all the right way, and that's why I'm here. Kind of want to explain how the internet sales stuff would work. So after doing this for almost 10 years now this August, I've got a handful of customers and whatnot that contact me, and I buy a custom car for them or whatever. You know, you might contact me and say, hey Sean, I'm looking for like a 2007 Corvette with X amount of miles. Well, on my side, I buy a lot on the internet, and I can literally dial that in and find what that customer is looking for, and the car shows up, and basically it's never even in inventory, and move on with life, and I got the customer the car that they're looking for. A lot of people are comfortable dealing with somebody they know on that kind of thing because they're expecting me to go over the car, and the expectations, again, of not driving it beforehand and stuff, all that expectation relies on me when we're doing that. Other thing would be wholesaling cars and stuff from my other work. I get a lot of cars through and that don't fit my Japanese niche over there and whatnot. Some of them I'd like to retail on the internet or wholesale, and a lot of the wholesaling and stuff, trading cars around if I buy from dealers and then they go straight to the auction. If I do a buy bid on stuff that I'm familiar with or whatever, I just take it straight to Odessa. The car never even touches my house. Still gotta have the dealer's license though, and an address for all that.
You're saying the car never comes to your business?
Correct. Let's say I tell Stivers I'll take these 10 cars or whatever. I buy them out of the trade-in value, and I transport those cars to Kansas City, sell them under my dealer's license. Check comes to me, the cars were never even at my house.
Wow.
That's not.
That actually happens
That's
a
not-
lot.
yeah, a lot. That's not every single time.
What's that?
That's not every single.
It's not every single time, but that primarily I'd be doing custom buying like the Corvette example and wholesaling like that, where I'm trying to buy some of these big dealers where I'm very familiar with the wholesale values of them, slightly under what I think a normal wholesale would be, and then take them to a different market where the cars might be higher. And then I would auction those cars. You know, you might only make $200 a car, but if I do 30 of those cars in one sell, those cars are never at my house again. They're just picked up at Stivers, transported straight to Kansas City or wherever it be, you know.
It's car
These are,
arbitrage.
yeah. So,
So the cars that are in these pictures are in the building?
right,
on-
I just wanna show how much storage is in there, that I don't need cars outside. I don't want the kind of cars that I would be keeping there outside in the first place. I don't necessarily need displayed cars. It would be nice if I could have one or two outside, but it's not a hang-up deal breaker to me, I guess.
Do you have any customers that would come to your home pick up these cars?
There would be some, but we're talking on like a crazy busy week, 2 a week. I mean, my retail side of it is gonna be like the Japanese car still from Performance Auto, which is on Highway 28. I have employees there, and that's gonna stay the same. My dad would be here with me tonight, but he's got COVID, but he recently lost his pilot's license due to some health problems and whatnot, so he would be helping me with this too through his next 4 years till he had planned to retire, so. The reason I want to do it from my house, that's a big one, I suppose. 69% of entrepreneurs, according to the National Association of Small Businesses, start their business from home. Again, there's nothing preventing other people from, you know, my fiance sells 31 handbags from our house or whatever. She doesn't need zoning to do that. I do. But overhead is, of course, extremely high right now. If I were to go lease something, I can't just experiment with some ideas on a 5-year lease that is triple net or whatever, you know, I just can't do that. Of course, if something took off from there and I outgrew the place, of course, at that time you'd move out and build a place or whatever it would be at that point. But I can't just start there is the gist of it. And just like my existing place, you know, I got to where I am with Performance Auto, starting out at my mom's house when trying to make some money for college, clear back when I was 18, and I mean, I did start from my mom's house, so. There would be a lot of improvements coming to my house too. In fact, I would be getting rid of all the crushed asphalt that you see, it'd be all cement probably by the end of summer would be my goal. I don't want to deal with the dust or anything, so it'd just be straight up cement. There is quite a bit of similar zoning going on around me in either direction. You've got Ellis to the north of me that works on implements. We've got a lot of combines and stuff always going by to get worked on up there. I've got John, commercially zoned with the catfish farm to the south of me. It's not active, but it is C2 zoning down there. We've got the bus barn. We've got all the stuff we talked about there at the start. And again, I did pick my place because there are no covenants, there's no association, but it's very close to Norwalk. I love my kids being in the Norwalk schools. Tom and I's daughters are in 3rd grade together, we're next door neighbors, they play together constantly, you know. And we want to keep that family culture going in the area, so. Do love Norwalk and Warren County, and that's really, I absolutely love my place. Couldn't be any more perfect for my lifestyle, so. The neighbors had some concerns about property values. I did talk to the assessor, Janet, and she said there would be no impact for what I'm trying to do. There would be no impact on the property values. I did call her, so. I guess that pretty well sums up most of that stuff that I've got, if you guys have questions for me.
How long have you lived on that property?
I bought it in 2018.
With the restrictions that have been asked of us by the zoning commission, one of them is that it expires when sold.
Yeah,
So it would revert back to agriculture.
sunsetting one.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So you know, in Norwalk's letter, they were worried about either staying in the county's jurisdiction, which that would go back to low density residential. It could become that
Right.
if it's added. And the same thing with Norwalk's could then become the medium density residential, so I don't see the big problem. I
Right.
don't understand,
Well, as far as I know, and I've talked to them too, and I know that they've bought like the property behind my shop, Performance Auto, but they have told me there was no intentions of moving zoning that way to where my house is.
okay, I think that's where.
Or not zoning, sorry, annexing. But
Not Southland.
But you haven't been annexed yet?
I have, no, there are no plans of annexing my area,
Okay.
as far as I'm aware.
That could be good for you.
I know at one time there was plans to annex south of Wright Road, but that fell through, and that's been years and years ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate your time. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? This is a public hearing.
I would.
Sure, come on up and state your name and address, please.
My name is John Bamer. I live at 5027 R57 Highway, just down about less than a half mile away from Sean's proposed shop. Sean has been a neighbor of mine since 2018. I've known him for 10 years now. He runs a very clean operation. When I drive by his house, he's very meticulous and keeps everything kept up very well. And that's how he keeps his business too. So I know we have other, my property is zone C2 commercial. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't see, I have my neighbors are the Ellises. I have more problem with them cracking mud, but that's just the ag operation that they're, the business that they're in. I do not see that Sean's business would really cause any problems with traffic. He's got a lot of sight distance between where he's at on the top of the hill. And also, I don't believe Norwalk will annex any further south than Wright Road because there's no sewer. There's just a sewer south of Bedwell. There's no sewer beyond that, and so it would be very costly for them to try to annex further south. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, anyone else?
My name is Todd Shute. I live at 4212 R57, just directly to the north of Sean. I'm his next door neighbor. Initially, I had the same concerns as some of my other neighbors about cars being out and things like that, but I believe he's agreed to all the restrictions, and I don't think it's going to change the culture of our neighborhood or anything like that. So he's a family man, I'm a family man. Our daughters, like he said, are best friends, and our wives are really good friends. I guess fiance, my wife, but I don't see an issue with him, you know, selling cars out of his building as long as it remains that it appears residential. So.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else or online? Is there anyone online? Anyone else from the audience? Going once? Okay. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Board. Anyone like to start with their thoughts?
I did receive a letter that came today that I want to make sure gets read into the record. It was from Bob and Kate Baldwin.
Do I need to open up the public? Let's make a motion to go back in the public hearing.
Sorry.
You're okay.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
This letter was received this morning. The board's scheduled to consider a vote on the rezoning request to rezone property located at 4248 R57 Highway to commercial. I want to reaffirm my opposition to this rezoning request. I've provided a summary of reasons supporting my position to transition this property to a commercial business location. The property we own is adjacent to this property and will directly impact my property value, privacy, and livelihood. Unfortunately, we're not able to attend the meeting tonight. I requested this item be deferred to another date, but that was not possible. I sincerely appreciate your review of supporting information I provided, including a statement signed by several area property owners that are opposed to this rezoning. I urge the board to dismiss this request and vote not to approve. Thanks, Bob and Kate. Sorry about that.
And how many neighbors?
That
Is
was,
that- is that- 12?
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19,
19,
20, 21. 21. There's 3 different pages there.
in opposition, 21 neighbors in opposition.
I'm gonna, well, since we're still in public hearing, is there anyone else who has the last call? I'd like to say. Come on. Finish up.
I do want to say, and I think Bob will vouch for me, I didn't get a chance to speak with the neighbors before Bob and Kate went around with that petition, and that's why you won't see them here tonight. That was clear back in October, and I didn't even get a chance to talk to Bob and Kate till after they had done it. And I did talk to Bob and Kate as well. Not saying that changed their mind, but a lot of the neighbors were under the impression that I was gonna have the wacky welding inflatable man out in my yard and cars everywhere and whatnot. When that went down, there was no clear, this was a lot bigger deal than I thought it was going to be. And I don't think that it was shored up that people knew what I was doing at that point in time. So please keep in mind that petition's from October.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sean, excuse me. So you went to each of those on the petition and spoke to those neighbors? as
I did
well?
not, but the Bedwells came here and he spoke to at the first meeting or whatever, and he had no idea that I was trying to do it out of my building or internet cells, and he said at that point that he did not care, and that should be all recorded, I assume, correct? That at that point he said he's not trying to control what anybody does in their building, so. But I did not go to each neighbor, hunt them down or anything like that. I just didn't feel that was appropriate. So I think that some of them did call in possibly and find out that it was internet cells and stuff, but again, that was not sure up at that point in time.
Did you talk to Baldwin as well?
Yes, I did. Would you like me to elaborate on that?
Well, I'd like to know what,
Kate told me that don't waste my time, there's nothing that I can do to change her mind.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, I will make another motion to leave public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
So what's before the board is the rezoning request. The packet has, I'm gonna go ahead and heard from the public. I will start. I think that you're kind of in a tough spot here. Like, I wanna change the rules from the legislature to address this without having to get into our county zoning ordinance, because this really should be a legislature issue as opposed to the county. You can't do what you wanna do, you can't get that license to operate a business from your home absent that change. So that's why we're here, is because we've gotta then make the determination, do we want to individually rezone this piece of property that touches a bunch of other residential pieces of property? And yes, there's a sunset, I get the facts, but it really doesn't belong. I mean, it belongs here and it's here and we're here, but it shouldn't be. It really should come from the DNR or whoever issues the license from the state should have clear non-rezoning or that sell, might do some 31 bags, or there are people that have, oh, I don't know, an attorney's office out of their home, or they sell Hamburg Chef, or they repurpose things on the internet and sell. There's all sorts of businesses, and I think in the last 2 years, the number of businesses from home businesses has probably skyrocketed exponentially, both here in the county and frankly, lots of places. People didn't, maybe they were home from work for a while, and they found out that they can still make a living from home and not go to a traditional office, and so it's really not uncommon, it's just unfortunate that it needs to come before us for a rezoning, and it really should be addressed by the state, so I can see you're in a tough spot. What I wanna do is just clarify for the zoning folks, because they held yours back to see what we're gonna do with Milo and that car sale. I know they did the Ogden property. And I just wanna make some public comment on differences, because there's some differences. One, on the one that was before us before, notice was sent out to all property owners within a radius of that property, and no one had any issue. And I do believe you. I think that you're right that the list from the Baldwins with 21 neighbors who were angry or not in favor in October, I would contend and agree with you that list is shrunk. When people realize what actually is happening, that you're not having 6 cars out and not having the inflatable wavy sign guy. I mean, when people understand what it actually is that is being proposed, I think a lot of those people will temper their position on it to totally indifference. So I don't think that there's 21 folks that are not in favor, but my point is, on the Milo rezoning, that has some similar attributes, we heard of 0. And that matters a little bit. That's one data point. My second one that I'm gonna have a sticking, an issue with, and so I'm going to be no. That doesn't mean I don't want you to succeed. That doesn't mean I don't want some changes to happen so that the permitting process goes a different way. And that, I'm one of 3, so I'm not saying you're dead in the water, but the other issue that is very different from what was before us was not only do we have at least some neighbors that are in opposition. I have a shared driveway with a neighbor who is vehemently opposed to this. That is factually a big distinction to me. And that
Say it again.
if you look on the map, the Baldwins and the Westerns have a shared entrance off of R57. So you're rezoning one from rural residential to commercial, and they've got a shared driveway, and we don't have a direct neighbor on board or close to on board, and that's, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, it's just what's before us. And then lastly, we're within a 2-mile radius of Norwalk. I know that the cities are not determinative, that this board does not always go along with what the city desires, but within a 2-mile range, I do give some real deference to our municipalities when they say I am in favor or I am opposed. That matters to me. So for those reasons, I am not supportive of it. I do hope that there's a change that happens, because this would not be the only at-home business in the county. It just seems like it's the one at-home type of business that has to have a rezoning that I don't think it should have to. But those are my thoughts, but I am one of 3, so.
Sean, I think that your presentation and the type of person you are, somebody of your caliber, it's really hard, it's gonna be tough for me to say no. Just because I know you're gonna be a professional operator and you're gonna be, you're a professional business person and an entrepreneur. I really admire those traits. I'm sure your property, while you're the owner of it, is gonna be, in beautiful condition. I don't see anything wrong with you as the owner. But when we change the zoning, we change it for, you know, a long time. And so, I'm kind of completely on the fence on this because, for all the you know, when we did this the last time with Ogden, there was no neighbor opposition, and that's a big deal. And we'll have 21 neighbors in a city that have voiced some reservations. I think, that's something that this board needs to think about. I mean, it impacts how we make decisions. It just does how people perceive this. But with your neighbors that are close to you and know the type of person you are and the type of business you would run and they're in support, this is a really tough one. This is not an easy decision. This is probably one of the tougher decisions because of your presentation and the type of person you are and what you laid out for the board. It's really tough to say what to do. So I'll wait and listen to Supervisor McIntyre's comments. If there's a motion, I just, you know, I haven't made a decision yet.
Well,
Sorry, Kristen.
thank you, Supervisor Huber. I think it just boils down to me that you would not be here without the requirement. You know, that the state is asking you to rezone so that you can do this. I think it's absolutely absurd. You know, and that this has created friction with your neighbors, you know, and with the city. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, but we give notice of these changes, but there's no splitting of properties here, so your notice to Norwalk was a complete courtesy. So their opposition to me really, you know, especially when, in the fact that when you sell it, it's gonna revert right back to ag, and they can do what they need to do.
And they do, I mean, does fall within the land use urban service area, so that's another, you know, we do notify for that as a courtesy, you know.
As a
Yeah.
courtesy, okay, all right, thank you. So, I'm in favor of this, just because I don't see what you're doing that's any different than, like you said, you know, what your wife would do, and you're trying to make a living, and you're gonna have on a busy week, 2 people come to your home to get a car. Heck, I have more than that coming to my house in a week with my kids and friends, so, and I live out in the very rural area, so. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
The ball goes back to Daria. We've got, Kristen said yes, I'm gonna be a no. My only ask of the board is though that if we are a yes, I would ask not to waive second, third reading so that we can hear from, more folks. I don't want to fast track it. But I'm also not making a motion, so.
I will make a motion to approve Sean Westrom regarding the rezoning from A1 to C2 for land located at 4248 R57 Highway, Norwalk, Iowa.
I'm gonna second.
Is there any discussion from the board?
So you will be having a second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put that in my motion. I will amend my motion to say have a second reading. Do we have to have the third as well, or can we make that
You should
determination?
make that determination. Are you wanting to put any restrictions?
Oh, I thought that was good, you're right. Do you have the list?
Do you want me to give you the list?
Yes. Okay, thank you. rescind my motion and then,
Let's start from the top.
You can just go ahead and continue your motion at this
Okay.
point. Because you're making a friendly amendment to your own motion.
so, recommend approval with these 5 restrictions. Number 1, to limit to internet auto sales. Number 2, all vehicles associated with this business would be limited to your 42 by 80 building. Number 3, zoning change will sunset if property is sold, and signage would be in conformance with Warren County ordinances. Number 5, no additional exterior lighting for the business.
Yes. Did you want to go ahead and set the second hearing? You can do that with your motion if you'd like. So you can set it for the next meeting, which would be March 1st.
At 9:35? All right. And set the second hearing for March 1st at March 1st, 2022 at 9:35 a.m.
I'll second. Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
No. Motion carries. All right, next up on our agenda tonight is a third public hearing. Our third hearing, this one for Luke Judd regarding a rezoning application from A1 to C2 for land located at 7799 Fulton Street, Hinkle, Iowa, 50125. I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Luke Judd, is Luke Judd here?
Okay. The applicant is not here, so is he on?
No, just David Carroll.
Just David Carroll? Okay.
Do you want me to look in the hallway just to?
Yeah, you might look in the hallway just to check.
Pictures. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna have Carrie check just to make sure, but right now,
Sounds good.
okay. Luke's the son of Chris and Tracy DeVault, and he wants to rezone his parents' parcel from A1 to C2 to have a shop for diesel repair and auto repair and farm and ag repair. Will the proposed district be a benefit to general, no, he's not out there. A benefit to the general public? No. Is the location of the proposed district in accordance with the land use plan and policy? No. The whole area all around is completely agricultural. Could the proposed district be considered spot zoning? Yes, there's really not anything else but ag in the area. There's a little bit of RR1 down and around the corner on R57. Will the proposed district maintain or protect property values of adjacent landowners? No, like as I said, it depends on the hours of operation, the business plan that Luke has. Until we know that, it's very hard to tell. Is the time, schedule, and type of development considered within the proposed district reasonable? No, just have an application, no other plans to know. We had asked him to provide information, and at the time I was doing all of this, still didn't have that information. Does the proposed district, correspond to the areas of proposed development? No, it's highly populated with homes. If you're not familiar with this area, it's off of R57, north of Spring Hill, Greenbush is the area. Old agricultural subdivision, highly populated with homes. Will the proposed district be in accord with the intent, spirit, purpose, and spirit of zoning ordinance and land use plan and policies? No, it calls for ag. The next two questions were not applicable. There was no CSR rating even available because it's covered in homes. Is the proposed district located within an area subject to flooding? No, so the next three questions were not applicable. Will the proposed source of wastewater or water supply and wastewater treatment meet the requirements of Warren County Board of Health? I went on the line, if his business plan shows he will need anything more than that's there, he will need to provide that information and come forward with that. Telephone, gas, and electric service is available, but this would need to be explored if he needs anything additional. Will the existing roads and bridges providing access to the proposed district be adequate to serve the proposed development in accordance with the requirements and standards of the Warren County engineer? Went on the line, it's on, I would not think so. It's on a gravel road, Fulton Street off of R57 highway. No business plan to know how big he plans to have this. I do know, he had mentioned after the fact that, bigger diesel, trucks that pull semis, coming in and having repair work, so I would say it's not the best for the roads. Classroom capacity and parks, not applicable for those questions. Will the development within the proposed district minimize soil erosion, dust, and surface water runoff during and after construction in accordance with the requirements and standards of the Warren County engineer? Went on the line, not sure if there would be new construction. On repairs and business side, he should have regs to follow with those entities. But as far as if there's new construction, yet he'll have to work with any of our offices and stuff, but any of the, as far as the business stuff, like he'd have to work with the DNR for like oil and that kind of stuff. Is the proposed district, the approach zones, that's not applicable. Will the development within the proposed district minimize noise levels during and after construction so as not to create a nuisance to adjacent property owners? Unknown. Guessing he plans to build a new building, but may use what's there. He was very vague in what he provided to us. I hesitated to even bring it forward, but he did provide a plan after the fact, but I think it's been very empty with facts. So, is the proposed district located within an urban expansion area? No. Luke needs to provide a detailed business plan prior to zoning commission meeting, preferably prior to rezoning packets being mailed out, so we can see what his visual plan is for the property. This lot's part of Greenbush subdivision. There's lots of residences in the area. I'm guessing we will get calls from people there who are concerned. There's not really any commercial around him. Staff recommends denial unless this is a very highly restricted, but I would caution that restricted rezonings sound good, but as compromised, they are tough to control and regulate, like especially like that, where it's just, I think he's already doing some things that are not in compliance. So if we do not rezone him, we're gonna have to probably go after him with a complaint and investigate, because I think there's already some things going on there as we got some more stuff in from him. I will tell you, he is involved, his parents own the property. He's sent a letter that says we'd like to rezone 7799 Fulton to accommodate a small family diesel repair business. We'd like to put up a Morton-style building to operate the business from. The only employees would be myself and my son, eventually hiring my other two sons for a total of 4 employees. Hours of operation would be 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. We're a small but busy shop offering quality repairs on diesel-powered trucks and equipment at a reasonable rate. We have a diverse customer base serving anyone in need of honest quality work, including farm and ag equipment. On a typical work week, we work between 1 and 4 trucks, in which would be housed in the Morton building. We would like to utilize the southwest corner of the property to put the building on. Ideally, the building would be anywhere from 40 to 60 to 40 by 80. I've attached a picture to represent the general location of the building. We are flexible on this and are open to other location on the property to place the building. If granted this permission, we will follow all ordinances and respect the wishes of all of our neighbors and community members, maintaining a neat and tidy appearance with minimal outside storage. We had David, I can't pronounce his last name, do you know that, from Dickinson Law Firm?
Not without seeing it.
Okay, he's the attorney for Dr. Cherney, for JSV Commission Properties. He contacted us regarding this. We have received on 12/28, Richard Shepard called regarding a public hearing notice he received. He asked for more info, read him the letter submitted by Luke on 12/27 explaining what his plans are, and if the rezoning's approved, Mr. Shepard would like to think things over before he has any further comments in favor or against this application. 12/28, Nicole Butler, 6968 77th Lane, called regarding public hearing notice with questions. Said covenants state no businesses allowed. Explained she should check with the recorder's office to see if those covenants are still in effect. Emailed her a copy of the application with letter and drawing submitted by Luke Judd on 12/27. Terry Oberg, 7699 Fulton, stopped by the zoning office to request application documents. We received email correspondence from Nicole Butler on 12/29. 1/7/2022, received email from John Harrison, 6710 77th Lane, number 14 of Greenbush Acres. Received an email on 1/7/22 from Dr. Cherney, owns 4 properties on 77th Lane, doing business as JSV Community Properties. 1/10/2022, received email from Terry Ober, 7699 Fulton Street, number 3, Greenbush Acres. 1/10/2022, received a written letter from Kim Silver and Dennis Streckler via neighbor at Zoning Commission, read it into the record. So all that stuff has all been read into the records. You have copies of everything that's been received to date on the complaints regarding. We did find that, this is just as an FYI, the covenants do not allow for a business in that subdivision. We do not control the covenants, nor do you, but that is just, the covenants state that they cannot have a business there. We had asked him to provide that information to us. He did not provide that. The neighbors came forward with that. So what we're really looking at is the zoning commission, when they sent this to you, was they looked at the facts and they would like to be able to consider that, but not necessarily. They can't necessarily because it's not in their jurisdiction, the covenants. So, but just so you have that in the zoning commission voted, motion by Laxton to recommend denial of the rezoning application to the Board of Supervisors, with a second by Rooney, with 3-0 vote to recommend denial of this. And neighbors requested, Greenbush requested all of Greenbush Acres property owners be notified for the board meeting tonight, and Carrie did make sure that they all got notification. So it came to you with a 3-0 recommendation for denial. So, and like I said, he or his parents are not here this evening, so, and they got notification and knew about it. So, any other questions for me? And I promise there's no more letters I missed.
We're still an open hearing, so you can bring them later if you'd like. Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Is there anyone from the public or online who would like to speak? Just come up, state your name and address, please.
Good evening, David Wetch, Dickinson Law Firm, 699 Walnut, Suite 1600 Des Moines, on behalf of Dr. Cherney, JSV Community Properties. I can't say much more than what the staff has already indicated. But if you look at the plat map, this lot, Lot 4, is right in the middle of a residential development. It would have an impact negative on property values. It's not consistent with the character of the neighborhood. The proposed business would generate additional traffic, noise, clutter, and ground contamination. When was the last time you looked at an agricultural repair shop that there wasn't antifreeze, oil, transmission fluids, hydraulic fluids, or all of the above? And there's nothing here to indicate how that they would even attempt to control that. As she also indicated, the restrictions and the covenants that have been in place since 1973, this would be a direct violation of those covenants. And from my perspective, this is a textbook example of a request for spot zoning. And again, right in the middle of a residential development. From my perspective, this is a situation where the landowner is asking for forgiveness rather than permission. From what I understand is that they've already had this as an ongoing business. I don't have personal knowledge, but I'm being told that by some of the residents. And for all those reasons, my client would urge that this board deny the requested zoning. Thank you.
Now, I can either hear you or see you. I'm not sure I can do both.
Not a very handsome man, I'd go with hearing. Do whatever you like.
My name is John Harrison, and I live at 6710 77th Lane, which used to be called the Pool Street. It's a part of Greenbush Acres. So I used to have the address as lot number 14. I've been there a little over 30 years. When I bought the property, it was a quiet, wonderful, safe neighborhood, and we sure would like to keep it that way. And for me and my neighbors, it just seems to be wrong to put a diesel repair operation right in the midst of a big residential area. There are roughly, there's 22 properties inside the Greenbush Acres development, and there's probably another 10 to 15 houses within that immediate quarter of a mile area around where we're talking about. Those houses currently range from $200,000 to $400,000. So it's not an inexpensive neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. And in reading what Mr. Judd gave to the Zoning Commission, there are some questions I have, and it has to do with what Mr. Attorney's lawyer just referenced. There seems to be a business going on there now. Even coming over here tonight, there was a the trailer park, I don't know what we call it, the cab part, was pulling out of that operation. There's been 3 to 4 there for weeks and weeks, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on at this point. But his statement that there was an existing business, I thought maybe it was someplace else. So I did a little research, and I'm not great at this, but I tried the Better Business Bureau, no listing. I tried the Secretary of State's office for regular business, no listing. And then I tried the sales tax. Do they have a permit to do sales tax? I could find nothing that had anything to do with the Judd Truck and Transportation, which is what he has on the bottom of his note to all of us. So that's a puzzle for me of what really is going on. He also states that right now there would be 2 employees, himself and his son, and that they currently easily do 1 to 4. But he'd like to eventually add his other 2 sons. So does that mean we go to 8? You can't have 2 more employees with the same number of operations going on in the building, so it must be 8 at one point. More importantly, I don't know, obviously I know nothing about zoning regulations, but a C2, as I read it, you can do almost anything you want with a C2. But if it was approved for what he's asking now, if tomorrow they decided to put a tavern in there, does it come back before you guys, or is that just automatically they put an adult bookstore there? I don't know. Or a parking lot. I don't know what the answer to that is. I do have an environmental concern, and I'm not sure if anybody has contacted the Warren Water Department. because that line runs right in front of that property that feeds all of us in the neighborhood on Warren Water. They have a giant tower just down the road on Fulton. And as far as I know, there's the only trucks that ever come down there. So I wonder what happens with that operation. And I think the last thing is road maintenance. I think it was mentioned before. Do we have a couple of farm trucks go in and out? Sure. Tractors? Yeah, because there's farmland just down from us. But as far as I know, I've never seen a semi-trailer on that route. So that 200 feet from R57 to their property is gonna get some heavy-duty maintenance requirements, I'm assuming. I've already talked about what it's been there, and it's been there for weeks. The other thing that was puzzling to me is the people that actually own the property, I know now, I think, is Mr. Judd's parents. And they bought it several years ago at a sort of fire sale, sheriff's sale, for less than half of the assessed value, which was a pretty good deal. And it's still assessed at about $250,000, that property. So they made a pretty good choice, but I wonder, when they bought it in 2014, it was a peaceful, safe, great neighborhood. And we sure would like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other letters from our zoning department?
No, Mayor.
Seeing no one else raising their hand, I'll make a motion to exit public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. I will start. I'm not supportive for a variety of reasons, and the record is replete with those reasons. If there is a business that's being operated commercially out of the area currently, I think that we need to dig into that as a county and to make sure that it is staying true to the current zoning that it is. Because you're right that having trucks in and out of those gravel roads is really hard to have semis running out of gravel roads, especially if it's wet or snowy. That's not what they're intended to do. I know that we, for the public's benefit, this is a good refresher, but one of the things when I look at where you want future growth, I genuinely take into account our roads a lot, both current maintenance as well as future maintenance, which is why when you're building residential lots, we have a very different requirement for agricultural 4on40 versus paved to pavement. We want homes to be built on pavement. That way you don't have trucks bringing in cement and rafters of homes and heavy equipment just tearing the dickens out of our gravel roads. So it looks like we've got some additional issues there. I'm also not confident that my reading of it, it looks like the parents are the owners, but the application is maybe submitted from the son. I think there's just all sorts of issues with it, and a lot of factual gaps. And so for all of those reasons, I am a no, and I'm guessing the board will be there too, but we'll see.
Totally agree. But I do want to reemphasize the investigation part of this, just to find out if there's a way the county can do anything to make sure that there's not an illegal business going on there. I'd be in total support of that. But I'm a no.
Well, I have, this is just a no-brainer, but I think that the previous speakers are citizens as well as other board members. They voiced their concerns, and I do agree with them. But some that have not been addressed, I think 13 of the covenants, 3 of them stood out to me. There may be more, but at least 3. It said that a minimum size of dwellings to be erected on the tract shall be not less than 600 square feet. I know they're talking about dwellings, but I'm thinking of buildings. It's 40 by 80 on here. That is 3,200 square foot building. And don't tell me that, okay, that goes along with the no obnoxious or offensive trade shall be carried upon any lot. I know we don't enforce these, but these mean a lot to me. This is why I think we need to have covenants in the future in our ordinance. That they become annoyance or nuisance to the neighborhood. No unsightly junk or junk cars shall be stored or left on any of these tracks. And then I'm gravely concerned about our road out there. I know that was addressed, but our gravel roads are one of my #1 concerns. And the fact that there's no business plan and that they're not here tonight. It completely floors me that you want to come and you don't take the time to come and address. Further said, I'm a no as well, so.
Okay. No action will need to occur on that one.
Yeah, I think we did, didn't
Yeah, it just dies.
You need to do,
we? We need to.
We do need to.
yes,
Yeah.
just like you normally would. Darren's on his way back in.
Okay.
Unless you want to talk about gravel roads more, that'd be great. Never mind, I'm sorry.
You
That's
just closed the
pretty,
public hearing.
Okay.
I think so. Tracy, they closed the public hearing, correct? Yes. Say.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to not rezone the property, the Judd property on full,
And,
then waive second and third.
wait, second.
Discussion, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up is consider approval of ARPA funded projects. Looks like we have 3 of them. I'll go through them briefly. Actually, we'll have the room here.
Thank you.
We'll just look at it. Good evening, Don.
Good evening. So tonight I'm bringing 3 more projects regarding the use of ARPA funds. These projects have been presented to the board in work sessions, and you've all had an opportunity to discuss them tonight. I'm simply presenting the resolutions so the board can vote yes or no for these projects. The first is approving use of ARPA funds for Warren County Sheriff's Office Reserve Program. And this is for using $12,000 of ARPA funds for the Warren County Sheriff's Office Officer Reserve Program. And that's essentially what the resolution says as well.
Do we take them individually?
Yes, you do need to take them individually.
Make a motion to approve $12,000 ARPA funds for the Warren County Sheriff's Reserve.
Second.
Discussion, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Warren County Conservation, this is the second one. Warren County Conservation Board has presented a project to upgrade Grant Park Campground. The amount of ARPA funds requested is $331,017 to install electric and water utilities to construct a shower restroom facility and wastewater treatment system at Grant Park Campground in Warren County.
Make a motion to approve the ARPA allocation for 331-17 to conservation for the Great Park Campground.
Second.
Discussion? I have a great discussion. I'm really in favor of this one. I mean, I was in favor of the reserve program too for the sheriff, but, and and the other ones that we've all reached consensus on, but I think this is actually really neat for the public, and I'm excited about it. You'll have showers, and Grant Park will really become a neat destination, and folks camp. I think conservation might even raise some revenue out of it, and I know that they have some plans, leveraging some future revenue for additional grants that they seek. So for a variety of reasons, I'm really excited about Grant Park Campground. That's all. We have a motion in a second. Tracy?
McIntyre. Heater. DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries.
The last one I'm presenting tonight is approving use of ARPA funds for Warren County Conservation Board purchase of a Chevy Silverado pickup truck to be used for their programs and their maintenance and all the things that they do with the campgrounds and trails. That is for up to $58,000. They manage 2,500 acres in Warren County, and that's what they're asking for this for.
I'll make the motion to approve the use of ARPA funds up to $58,000 to purchase a Chevy Silverado pickup truck for the use by Warren County Conservation.
Second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks.
All right, number 6 is approved agreement with Veenstra and Kim Inc. for storm sewer improvements in Greenfield Plaza. Dawn, are you presenting that or are you going to do it?
I am not presenting that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I will make you aware, the board met, discussed with Greenfield Plaza, their engineer, our engineer, a couple of times now, and decided to tackle a project. This will allow us to enter into an agreement with Veenstra and Kim for the engineering on a flooding issue in the plaza that will hopefully be addressed soon.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve and for the board chair to sign the agreement between Warren County and Veenstra Chem Incorporated for the storm sewer improvements in Greenfield Plaza.
Second. Is there any discussion from the board?
Did we need to put a dollar amount on it?
No, you've already approved that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and roll call vote, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries. Very eager, Megan. Next up is budget report. Megan, how are you?
All right, good. How are you? Okay, so I'm starting with the expenditures. Not a whole lot of changes, kind of the same things that we were watching last month. We've got some employee costs with the treasurer's office that will need an amendment that I'm planning on amending for. And that was a new hire that was approved, and same for the attorney's office, a new hire that was approved. And then with the recorder, there's some system fees that just get paid in full, so that kind of front loads a little part of their budget. And then again, we've got some employee costs that will need to be amended for. Capital projects, same as what you hear from me every month. We've got the 911 tower wrapping up, so that will be amended. And then if we look at maintenance, we've got some HVAC costs that we're going to be looking at spending ARPA funds on, and then as well as a new employee that will be planned in an amendment. And then number 6 for general services, it's the timing of our insurance payments. And then we also had an audit fee from fiscal year 21 end up in this fiscal year. I thought it would need amended for now. I'm just gonna plan on watching it. We're not too far over, so we could still end up not needing an amendment, but I will keep an eye on it. And then kind of the new one that I'm looking at and will likely need amended is juvenile probation. which those we kind of estimate, their rough estimate each year. And so it looks like that one will likely need an amendment. Other than that, most of what I'm seeing over on the left side of what you're looking at, and then compared to last year, is kind of covered in the new expenses for this year. Any questions on the expenditures? All right, move on to revenues. Again, so we're a little bit lower on the treasurer for revenues, but that's as we're spending some of our bonds down, the interest we're receiving on those bond funds also goes down. And then we've received a little bit less than what we budgeted on auto registration, auto use tax, and some other fees. And then for the sheriff, it's just the timing of when we're getting the contract law enforcement payments. We've gotten a couple in, so we've got some, I think like 4 or 5 left to receive. It's the timing of when we'll get a grant, and then there's a budgeted transfer that doesn't happen till the end of the year. Number 3, with DHS, LAE reimburse quarterly. We're 2 quarters through, so it makes sense that we're sitting at about 50%. And then nutrition, it's the timing of the transfer. Normally I would have done a transfer by now, but I'm kind of watching their fund to see if they'll need the full transfer amount this year, or maybe we can hold some of that back. And then number 5, Liberty Center. It's just the billing, and when we receive, we're getting a little bit further and a little bit closer to where we're budgeted each month. Any questions on the revenues? All right, and then last, we just have our fund balances. You can see any changes there. Again, obviously our capital expenses, our capital projects fund balances are going down like we should be as we spend the bond funds and complete more and more of the capital projects. Again, every time the 4 million always stands out to me, just because the 4.9 million of the ARPA funds that we received. But we'll start seeing expenses coming out of that fund here shortly. Any questions on those?
No, but it will be nice to sort of have a baseline once the Justice Center proceeds are out and the E911 bonds are done. And the ARPA funds to some extent, just so you can have a more apples to apples comparison of when you see large movements and look on our claims when we have 1.7 on claims and 1.4 of it's Justice Center payments. So it makes it look a little different than it is, but it'll be nice to have a baseline. Looking forward to that.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
Good job, Megan.
Thanks.
Number 8 on our meeting tonight is receive and file reports. We've got reports from the Recorder, General Assistance, and the Humane Society. I will make a motion to receive and file those reports.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up is Supervisors report.
I can go
first.
I mean, I'll be very brief. Beyond all our budget meetings and ARPA meetings and the Justice Center meetings, I mean, it's about really all that I've had time to do. But just for the public's benefit, our substantial completion date on the Justice Center is moving out just a week or 2 at this point, mainly due to supply chain issues and an additional project of a sump pump that we're putting into the basement area of the Justice Center. It's just taking a couple more weeks longer. It's an added change that we're in agreement that we have done together, and we knew that it was gonna take a little while longer. So, but all in all, the project is coming along very, very nicely, and I encourage the public to anybody in the public that wants to see the building to give us a call at the Board of Supervisors, and we're be happy to take anybody through. We're getting close to where it's very impressive on the inside, and there's a lot inside that building that we just want to make sure that the public is aware of and know everything functionally that's going to be going on there. It's pretty exciting from my perspective. Beyond that, that's my report.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I too don't have a very extensive board report. I attended the following meetings: Assessors Conference Board, budget workshops for the county, special session, closed session, and we discussed ARPA today as well. So that's my report.
Great, thank you. Mine, similar. Budget notice went out to all publications. Was that last week? Last Friday? All right. Oh, this one?
It'll be published this week.
Okay. I'm really excited about the budget. I sort of like numbers. And, I think the county is going to be surprised in a good way. Normally, when someone says, "You'll be surprised," it's the government talking. That's not usually a good surprise. But I genuinely think that I think folks are going to be pleased when they see the numbers. Both the urban levy as well as the rural levy, both of those numbers are dropping and dropping to a meaningful amount that it's my opinion. I could be wrong. We don't control school districts, how they set their levy rates, and we don't control how cities set their levy rates. So if you live inside of the city limits, it's theoretically possible that when we drop our levy or millage rate, they could increase theirs, or the school board could increase theirs, and some of that could come out. I have spoken with Indianola, Norwalk, and Carlisle, and none of those entities will be increasing to a level that will be impactful for our decrease. I don't know what the Indianola School District's doing. I don't know what Southeast Warren's doing. I don't know what Carlisle School District's doing. I have a pretty good handle on Norwalk School District, but in some, the city levy rate looks like it's proposed down 48 cents per thousand valuation, and the rural levy rate looks like it's dropping 91 cents per thousand valuation. So that's a meaningful enough number that, assuming you don't get some of that washed away by other entities that have taxing authority, which I don't think it will, even in consideration of assessed values going up, I think it's gonna be the first time in a long time that folks are going to see an actual, in dollar terms, decrease in their property tax bill. I'm very confident that that'll be the case for anyone who lives in unincorporated Warren County. I'm also pretty confident that'll be the case for everyone, regardless of where you live. So, that's good stuff. Our ARPA meetings are going well. We're looking forward to receiving applications from the public with an early April review timeframe. So if you have something that you want the board to consider, please get those to us in the next 6 or so weeks, and we will address them early in April. And lastly, I will say that I had a very nice meeting with Congresswoman Dr. Miller Meeks last week, and she'll be running her new district will include Warren County. I'm not sure who's running on the other end. I think that there's a couple, maybe there's even another R that's running there. There'll probably be 2 or 3 Ds and at least 2 Rs in that district. But Warren County changed after the last census. We are now, what do we call this for ourselves? Southeastern Iowa here in Warren County. So us and Lee County, Henry County, and Des Moines County, we have a lot in common. We're all in the same congressional district, but we're the outlier by the most northwest part. But we're no longer in the 3rd. And so I did have an opportunity. She is a sitting congresswoman in that Southeast district, and she was in Warren County recently, so I had a chance to talk with her. And in the future, when I get to talk to her again, I will absolutely be asking about infrastructure dollars, because we have a lot of bridges, and the feds are going to be passing infrastructure honestly. I would like to see some of that come up to a new county called Warren in that new district, so I don't know what you can do, but we're gonna ask. So, anyways, here's my supervisor report, mostly positive. With that, we're at number 10, public input. Anyone from the public can comment. Comments are going to be limited to 3 minutes per individual. State your name and address. Board will not take any action on the comments due to the requirements of the open meetings law, but may do so in the future. No public input will be allowed for any of today's agenda items. Good evening, Skip.
I'm Skip Phillips, 1341 Bronze Street. I had prepared comments at the first public hearing, but apparently we didn't have public. There was a lot of questions, and I've had a lot of questions here lately on the Joint Planning Commission. I was one of the Joint Planning Commission that put the document together. What we were trying to do with that is to stop the urban sprawl. And where we were getting urban sprawl was with the involuntary annexation by Des Moines. Des Moines was wanting to annex all the way down to the Middle River. And what they were really looking for is more land and more tax revenue so that they could balance their budget. But fortunately, with the Iowa Rural Rights Association and the county supervisors, we were able to stop it. I was one of the, I'm vice president of the Iowa Rural Rights Association and one of the commissioners on the joint planning. Where we had defined in that what should be in the different areas. We were trying to define that all of the annexation would be done in the cities. You'd annex into the cities, voluntarily annex, not involuntary. And then you would have city codes to mandate how those are put together. Essentially, the only rural area we had, I believe, was Greenfield Plaza. And you guys all know what kind of challenges we've had and the maintenance issues and cost of maintenance there is with the plaza. I think that you're going to have a lot of those same issues with all of these private developments. We're running into private development problems. I've kind of enumerated what those are. So I have a copy for each of you and a copy for Tracy so she doesn't have to take too many notes. But I think we're gonna need, like you had said, Crystal, I think we're gonna need some codes. Otherwise, we've got some areas that I don't think we can get the fire trucks down. We had some areas where we had an EMT had to run about a half a mile or a mile for a heart attack guy. Parked the ambulance and ran the last half mile. So we've got issues that are life-threatening, and we really need to be fixing those. And I don't think we should be doing any more of the private developments until we can fix those issues. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Skip.
Is there anyone else? Or online? Okay. Next meeting is March 1. That's a Tuesday morning meeting at 9:30 again. I was pleased to see maybe a little greater numbers tonight. We do the evening, every other evening, main board meeting for your benefits, and then if you're working during the day and can't make a 9:30 Tuesday, perhaps you can make an evening one if you so choose. So that'll be March 1, 2022 at 9:30. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks.